Today's Bible study is looking into the book of Genesis chapter 4. For this study we'll be using the English Standard Version, a reliable and accurate translation that stays true to the original texts. Chapter 4 reveals the tragic consequences of sin carried into the next generation, and it records the first murder in human history. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, "I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord." The phrase "knew his wife" is a Hebrew idiom referring to sexual intimacy. Eve's statement recognizes God's role in creating life, acknowledging that even after the fall, the Lord is still involved in the process of human birth. And again she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain a worker of the ground. This introduces the two brothers and their occupations. Abel's role as a shepherd and Cain's as a farmer sets the stage for their offerings to God, which will reflect not only their labour but their hearts. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry and his face fell. The key difference is not merely the type of offering, but the quality and heart behind it. Abel brings the best, firstborn and fat portions, while Cain's offering lacks that level of devotion. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 4 notes that Abel's offering was made by faith. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is Abel your brother?" Cain replied, "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" Cain lies to God and responds with arrogance. His rhetorical question, "Am I my brother's keeper?" reflects a complete lack of responsibility and compassion. And the Lord said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it shall no longer yield to you its strength. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth." God confronts Cain with the seriousness of his crime. The ground itself, which Cain worked, now turns against him. He will become an aimless wanderer, a powerful symbol of separation and judgment. Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." Cain fears retaliation. His concern is not repentance but protection. He acknowledges the loss of God's presence, being hidden from your face, which is one of the deepest consequences of sin. Rather than expressing remorse for taking his brother's life, Cain focuses on the personal cost of his punishment. His response reveals a heart more troubled by the consequences than by the gravity of his sin. This lack of repentance stands in stark contrast to the compassion and justice of God. Then the Lord said to him, "Not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold." And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should attack him. Even in judgment, God shows mercy. The mark of Cain was not a curse, but a sign of protection. God limits vengeance, demonstrating that human life is still sacred, even when stained by sin. Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. This verse emphasizes Cain's separation from God. Nod means wandering, which really reinforces Cain's new status. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. When he built a city, he called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. Despite his exile, Cain builds a city. This marks the beginning of human civilization, but it's not necessarily righteous. It arises from a lineage already in rebellion. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad fathered Mehujael, and Mehujael fathered Methuselah, and Methuselah fathered Lamech. This genealogy shows the spread of Cain's descendants. The line culminates in Lamech, who will represent the growing corruption of mankind. And Lamech took 2 wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other Zillah. This is the first mention of polygamy in the Bible, further showing the breakdown of God's original design for marriage. Ada bore Jabal. He was the father of those who dwell in tents and have livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all those who play the lyre and pipe. Zillah also bore Tubal-Cain. He was the forger of all instruments of bronze and iron. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Cain's descendants contribute to culture and technology, music, livestock and metalwork, but spiritual corruption continues. Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice. You wives of Lamech, listen to what I say. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. If Cain's revenge is sevenfold, then Lamech's is 77-fold. Lamech boasts about murder, escalating Cain's legacy. This is not repentance, it's pride in violence. The number 77-fold contrasts sharply with Jesus' teaching in Matthew chapter 18, verse 22, about forgiving 77 times. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and called his name Seth, for she said, God has appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him. Seth represents the continuation of the righteous line. His name means appointed, and his birth is seen as a gracious act of God. It is through Seth's lineage that the line leading to Noah, Abraham, David, and ultimately Jesus Christ is preserved. This emphasizes God's redemptive plan continuing even after the fall and the tragedy of Abel's death. To Seth also a son was born, and he called his name Enosh. At that time people began to call upon the name of the Lord. This marks a spiritual revival. The phrase call upon the name of the Lord signals the beginning of organized worship and prayer, a turning point that sets the stage for the faithful line that will lead to Noah. If you enjoyed this Bible study, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment about what you think of this Bible study.